chunks out of me. You're a shark and I'm swimming. My heart still thumps as I bleed. And all your friends come sniffing. Triangles are my favorite shape. 3 points where 2 lines meet. Toe to toe, back to back, let's go. My love is very late till morning comes. Let's desolate.
Well, first let me introduce myself. My name is Charles Scott and I wrote the book Rising Sun, a father and son's bike adventure across Japan. And thanks, 8-year-old son and I cycled for 67 days from the top of Japan to the bottom, and that's what this book describes.
It was kind of a crazy idea, but...
I worked at Intel Corporation for 14 years, and the idea for this trip of cycling across Japan came while I was working in a very typical way that I think many of us work. You get kind of sucked into your job, and the job expands into all parts of your life. And I think one of the challenges we all face is setting appropriate boundaries. For me, what I felt was a tension between the role that I had in my corporate life, my identity, and my role as a father. And I decided to come up with adventures with my kids so that I could reprioritize a little bit and make spending time with my children while they were young something that actually was on equal par with the things that my boss could call me up and tell me to do. All right, so first let me tell you about Japan. So this was the very first family adventure. This was summer of 2009. I still worked for Intel, and I asked for 2 months off, and my boss said, no, you're supposed to work, not go ride silly rides with your son. But I convinced them to still let me do it. And in the end, it took us 67 days. We cycled 2,500 miles, laughing the unfair opponent for a slender, middle-aged white guy with farmer's tan. I swatted down in the center of the sumo ring, preparing for battle. I'm feeling silly in only a pair of bike shorts. Wriggling my bare toes into the sumo ring's gritty sand, I glanced briefly over my opponent's shoulder, beyond several dozen expectant onlookers, and focused on the pounding rain that was carving divots in the mud just outside the covered rim.
It wasn't a good idea for my dad to take on a sumo wrestler. When I talk to people about these trips, that is one of the points I make, is if you only remember or take away one thing from me, it's just don't take on a sumo wrestler. It's that simple. Like, it's a bad idea. So one interviewer asked, like, would you do it again? I said, no. Stupid. So in these trips, they're family adventures, but we always tie them to some kind of environmental theme. In the case of Japan, we were raising money for a tree planting campaign and working with the United Nations, some of their efforts to combat climate change. But what I try to do with my children is one, challenge them to see, to learn that they can do much more than most adults think, and that they might even think themselves. And then also to tie it to something larger than themselves. In 2011, I finally decided to stop working at Intel and become a writer and family adventurer. Now, I don't know anyone whose title is family adventurer. I made it up. And I decided I'm going to be a family adventurer, and I'm not sure exactly what that is, but I'm going to do it and then tell you what I think it is. And basically what I do is I go on crazy trips with my kids, and then I write books and articles about them. One of the messages of the book is that one of the greatest gifts that a parent can give a child is literally time.
Bite chunks out of me. You're a shark and I'm swimming. My heart still thumps as I bleed. And all your friends come sniffing. Triangles are my favorite shape. 3 points where 2 lines meet. Toe to toe, back to back, let's go. My love is very late till morning comes. let's desolate.